You're listening to the Business Mike podcast. Amazing interviews with entrepreneurs and industry thought leaders.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Mike podcast. And joining me today is Claire. Claire, can you just let the listeners and viewers know a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me this afternoon. It's lovely to be here. So my name is Claire Boscq. I'm a keynote speaker and I'm also a business consultant. I've been working in the customer experience industry for probably about 15 years. Well, 15 years as my own business. But I guess I've always been in that industry. I did my catering school when I was 15 years old. I went to Disney World in Florida. I worked in hotels in France, in England, in Spain, in quite a few different countries. And then I moved to Jersey, which is a little island between France and England, about 25 years ago. And then 15 years ago, I set up a mystery shopping business. And that's where, you know, the customer experience, that CX side of it was very much defined and a lot more in a lot more deeper. I was doing a lot of work on customer experience, mystery shopping, employee experience, so training, a lot of those kind of things until, of course, the pandemic hit. And that was, yes, that was a bit of a turning for everyone, wasn't it? So I decided to let the mystery shopping go and become and continue sharing my passion as a keynote speaker and really kind of inspiring audiences around the world to deliver amazing customer experience and looking after their people so they can deliver amazing customer experiences.
Wow, I love what you said about the keynote speaking in particular, because that's an area I have interest in as well. And I'm just curious, on your journey, when did you start being a keynote speaker? And was that a skill you always had? Was there a moment in time after you were in CX that you decided to speak? When did the two merge?
Well, I guess throughout my career as a leader, as a hotel manager, I've been a hotel manager for a long time, as an entrepreneur, you know, you have to be able to communicate effectively with people around you. So whether you're in a team meeting and you're trying to pass a message or get them to be inspired and influence people around you, it's really important to be able to have those skills. So speaking has always been in my blood kind of things. Speaking as a professional speaker probably started back in 2018. I went to China and it was a mystery shopping conference, and it was my very, very first big stage as a keynote speaker. And speaking to an audience of mystery shoppers. So you were speaking to your own industry, your expertise. And then it was in China, it was in Beijing. So it was really quite interesting to be out there. And I came off that stage and I thought, oh my gosh, I just want to do that over and over and over again. So that was the first one. And I got hooked by it. And after that, I've always felt it's my kind of mission to inspire people and give them some tools that they can actually, you know, light up and do better things themselves, whether it's as a public speaker or whether it's as a business.
Right. And as a public speaker or a keynote speaker on that note, are there different approaches you have to when you're speaking to an audience that aren't necessarily professionals in your field versus people that know about what you're talking to them? And how do you navigate the two? Talking to people that understand what you're saying and then talking to people that are novices, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the first thing, it's really, I mean, as a speaker, you need to know your audience. So, you know, you need to know who is in the audience and you need to have an emotional connection with them. And that's for any type of conversation, whether it's 1-to-1 or 1-to-thousands or 1-to-10,000, you need to connect on an emotional level and finding those tools and finding ways to actually do that. So I'm quite energetic when I come on stage, and actually I do a lot of NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming, and I use a lot of NLP technique also in my public speaking. So one of the things that, when you've been on a conference and maybe you've had 2 or 3 or 4 different speakers before you, you can feel the energy is lowering, in the room, and you can start seeing people on their phone. They can start, you start losing them. So really that energy is so powerful, and you need to be able to shift that energy by doing something straight away with the audience. So suddenly they kind of wake up and they, oh, I need to be here. I need to be present. I need to listen to what it is. So I like arriving dancing. So I dance, I get people dancing, and I kind of come on stage, and then suddenly I'll get everybody to come and do something about it, whether maybe it's, you to the right, you stand up and clap your hands, and you to the left, you do that. And I kind of shift the energy, and suddenly people are a lot more aware, and suddenly they're going to think, oh, that person could be quite interesting. Maybe I'll listen out to I'll listen out. So being able to engage and be very interactive with the audience, it's really important. So you need to connect on an emotional level. You need to engage and be interactive with the audience. And I guess the third one is you need to speak from your heart. You need to speak from, I've got speech written, and I know what I'm going to say, but when I'm on stage, it never comes out the same way that I've written it because it comes from the heart. And, and if before I spoke to somebody and they said something to me, or suddenly the event organizer talk about something, or speaker before mentioned something, you bring it into the mix, and you're able to really kind of bring that and bespoke your talk. So you'll speak from your heart, and you're really connecting. That's probably the best thing that you can do as a speaker.
Yeah, I absolutely love what you said about bringing energy onto the stage, because that's a unique identifier as a speaker. And I think in addition to that, one of the challenges that keynote speakers might sometimes face is having a unique message or a unique voice. So there are obviously so many CX experts there out in the world. So what are some of the methods you use to have a unique message from your point of view?
So during the pandemic, I'd lost all my business at the pandemic, like many people around us. So I had to really kind of shift and reevaluate, like we all have. And at one point, I decided to speak about something which, I'd been hidden for quite a few years. So previous that, it's probably about 15 years, I'm a Feng Shui practitioner. So, Feng Shui, that's the Chinese principles. So Feng Shui is all about the energy that is around you. So how your environment, it's the environment psychology, and how environment will affect how our state of being, the way we feel, the way we think, the way we behave. So, for an organization, creating in a space where our employees are going to have, nice spaces. They feel there's lights, there's different colors, there's plants, really looking at the space around you and how this affects their employees and their customers. I decided to bring the Feng Shui principles into the business environment. And I called that method BizShui, so business Feng Shui. And that's a method that I created during the pandemic. And that's my brand, my personality, my yellow shoes, my yellow dress, my personality is a very me, and it's very different from anybody else as well. But if we talk on the content side of it, and what I talk about, when we look at CX, how do we make CX and EX very different, is by really making sure that the environment that we create, the energy that we create from the outside will also work on the energy from inside. And when we feel good in ourselves, we're going to deliver great service.
Wow, that's fantastic. I would love to explore a little bit about that in terms of the energy that you create, both for the internal customers and the external customers. So you've touched a little bit on the internal customers with just the working space, the lighting, and so on and so forth. But for the external customers, how exactly can BizShui, impact them, because they're not necessarily within your space all the time?
Well, not all the time, but you know what? It takes 7 seconds for somebody to walk through your shop and your doors or your office and actually feel good or not. You know, you feel it yourself. You're walking in somewhere and then you don't know why. It just doesn't feel right. So if it's something that you really need in that shop, you're going to go buy whatever you need and then you leave. As a customer, you are not going to stay. Whereas if you're walking in somewhere and the door's open and it smells gorgeous and you've got lights and you've got displays and, oh, it smells lovely. You've got music in the background. You know, your eyes are trying to go everywhere. Suddenly, you know, you feel so good. You're connecting on an emotional level. And then as a customer, you're going to want to stay, right? You know, if you're in a restaurant and it smells nice, the chairs are comfy, the music's good, you're going to spend more money. You know, you're going to buy a dessert. You're going to buy a drink after that. You're going to stay longer. So, you know, our customers, our external customers are very aware of the environment. So you need to create a space where your customers are going to feel really good. And they're going to want to stay around you. And when they want to stay around, they're going to recommend people to come to you. They're going to come back to you. And this is kind of pure loyalty. And that's on a subconscious level. So all that really happens on a subconscious level.
Yeah, well, someone could posit a challenge to that in that sometimes when you're within a certain space, and I'm talking about the employees or the business owners now, like you said, if the lighting is slightly off, you might not notice it or you might get used to it. If there's a weird smell, over time, that smell becomes normal to you. And so for someone experiencing your environment for the first time, these are things that they pick up on instantly. But for somebody that's in the business over a certain period of time, be it physical or even digital, you tend to start overlooking some of these simple things. So how can we stay on our toes to keep alive?
I'm totally disagreeing with you on that one. Even if there's a smell there, you know, that smell will be there and subconsciously it'll annoy you. If a light is a light and it's right on you, subconsciously it's going to attack you. If you've got spikes coming towards you, subconsciously, you're not going to feel right in your space. So all that is on a subconscious level. And if you're not doing anything about it, you're going to do less work. You're going to be sick. You're going to be ill. You're going to be fidgeting. You're going to be procrastinating because that space isn't, you know, subconsciously, you're not feeling right. You're not feeling safe. And your body's telling you about it. So you're going to be off sick. You're going to be going for coffee all day long because you don't want to be staying in that space and you're not going to be productive. So it's really an area which is underlooked.
Yeah, I think the takeaway from what you're saying, from my point of view, is once you feel something off in terms of your energy, in terms of the space, instantly, immediately just fix it. Because if you don't, your energy, like you're saying, and your attitude will just slowly going down and nothing will go wrong and you won't mind. And eventually that obviously feeds off on your staff and your customers as well in the long term. Yeah,
absolutely. So that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. It makes so much sense. You know, you know it yourself, right? When you don't feel right, you're not going to give great service. All you want to do is be at the back and just head away, right? So how can you expect an employee to deliver great service, to be smiling, to be attentive, to be present if they don't feel right in themselves? So businesses really need to kind of really realize the space around us and the energy that, you know, they're creating when they're creating those spaces for both internal and external customers.
Yeah, a very simple example that I can think of right now is a staff that has a very slow computer, and then a customer is getting frustrated. The staff is getting frustrated because they're working with this slow computer. It's not their fault. Everybody is angry, and all that could just be halted if they had a decent working computer. So that's just a simple example that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, the technology is amazing, and we need technology. We need to use technology, but the technology needs to also be customer centric. You know, if you're doing things and the technology isn't working, you need to change it. It's really so simple because, you know, the technology needs to be customer centric. You know, many case studies or stories of, the computer isn't working, or, oh no, we can't do this from here. And you're like, what? Get it done. All you want is, the things that whatever you request or changes that you need to do to be done. But no, technology is saying, no, we can't do it. Processes say, no, we can't do it. So when you're looking at the customer journey and all the touch points, how customer centric all those touch points are, how easy is it to do business with you?
And what would you say to people that challenge CX professionals in general by saying that, well, your field or your work isn't results driven? The results aren't tangible. You keep telling us over time things will change. It doesn't translate to numbers immediately or directly in a proven way. I'm sure you've had some of those challenges and pushbacks. So what would your response be to such questions?
Yeah, I guess I've stopped working with organizations like that. If people don't see the value of what you're doing, it's no really point to do any work with them. But it's like training. The first thing that was cut during the pandemic, it's training. Well, you know what? If you don't train your staff, how are they going to sell your product and services? Training is intangible, but if you don't do it, they'll be selling nothing. If you don't understand your customer journey, if you don't understand what's going right and what's going wrong, your customers are going to go somewhere else. So, it's very, very simple, and it's very, very tangible. I mean, the return on investment is measurable in terms of, even if you just take the sales, profit over 2 months, okay. Don't do it for over 2 months and then see how it goes, and then start, training your staff properly, start measuring your customer service, start, looking at all those touch points and start figuring out what's the moment of pain that your customers is having. And then you're going to start seeing, your satisfaction increasing, the complaint reducing, and the profits increasing. So yeah, it's a frustrating conversation that we're having to have, definitely.
And on a lighter note, are there any case studies or examples that you can share with us of those organizations that are doing it right?
Yeah, I mean, there's many organizations who are doing it totally right, and looking at not just, for example, the journey mapping, but their whole strategy. How do you measure? So you may be using mystery shopping, and then you may be doing some surveying. You may be asking the voice of the customers. But then, from an employee's point of view, you may be doing a project with your employees as well. So everything, it has to be a very holistic approach to what you're doing. So when you're looking at CX, isn't about, doing a mystery shopping visits once in a blue moon and that's it, you've ticked the box. It's a whole strategy that you need to put together, and it's looking at your culture, it's looking at your environment, it's looking at your people, and it's looking at your customers. And so for me, it's those 4 areas. If you don't look after those 4 areas, this is a real bigger holistic approach to CX and EX, really. And the culture, really, it's your business, right?
Absolutely. I'm sure there are many organizations that you've dealt with that are huge, but for some reason CX isn't on top of their agenda, and you wonder how exactly it is that they got to where they are without necessarily measuring and taking care of these customers of theirs, because that's how they exist. So some people are just flying in blind, and they suddenly need CX to help them amplify their business and help customers, like you said, bond with them in a way that's long-term for everyone.
And I think a lot of the time it happens more because they've got an issue, and the issue keeps coming back. So suddenly you're just kind of thinking, oh, well, maybe we need to do something about it, instead of being very proactive and actually making the investment and looking at, the way you're doing things and really doing it right, rather than firefighting and actually doing something because your customers are complaining, or because your staff is sick all the time, and because they don't want to, come to your organization. There's an issue there. There's something that isn't quite right. So instead of waiting until there's bigger issue, let's be very proactive about it, and let's look at ways. And again, it's not about spending millions, but it's having a program which is a long-term program. It's not about doing something in January and then nothing until, November. Let's do something every month. You can do something which will make your strategy a lot stronger, which will make your customers feel that you care. It will make your employees feel that you care. If you're training them, you're giving them the tools, you're creating an environment where they feel good. They're going to, that builds trust, that builds engagement, that builds care into your organization. And if you don't have any of those, you don't have a culture, you don't have a business.
I agree 100% with each and every word you've said right there in terms of the things that organizations have to look out for. So before I let you go, Claire, what parting advice would you have for two groups of people? The first one is somebody that wants to become a keynote speaker. They could be a professional in whatever field they're in. It could be accounting, CX, or whatever it is, but they now want to start doing keynote speeches. What advice would you give that person? And then the second one, to wrap it up, is for any business leader listening to this conversation right now, what CX message would you part with them? So those are the two parting questions.
Okay. So the first one, it's an easy one. Join the Virtual Speaker Association. So VSAI, Virtual Speaker Association is an association which is under the Global Federation of Speakers. And the group is an amazing group because there's education session twice a month. There's mastermind group, there's peer support, and you've got a library of hundreds of hours of professional speakers giving you the tools for you to set up your business, your speaking business, for you to, tell better stories, for you to really, get yourself on stages. And so this is a real, it's really, really a fantastic group. So I would suggest anyone to kind of go on Virtual Speaker Association and then join up. It's €50 for the whole year, so really it's not much, and you will get so much out of it. It really is incredible. And the second one, just show that you care. You know what? Just show that you care. Show congruence in your message. Be accountable for what you do. Always be responsible for, everybody else, and resilient in the way that you do your business, and bring some energy in everything that you do. It's all about showing that you care as a leader and as a person, really.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough, Claire, for coming onto the podcast and sharing your story. You're so energetic. I actually had to sit upright just to match your energy on the screen. But before we let you go, how can people, and I'm sure there are many out there who would like to get in touch with you, connect with you, so where can they find you on the internet?
So a bit like you connected with me on LinkedIn. So we're definitely in LinkedIn. I'm quite active on there. And then my website, just claireboscq.com. So you can find there. And then I'm everywhere. I'm on, YouTube. I'm even on TikTok. I'm doing some energizer tips on TikTok. So I'm doing some cool videos, more on personal energy. So it's really, just Google me. You'll find me somewhere.
Thank you so much, Claire. Just before you go, there's something I really love about what you've done. We talk about customers and things like that, but often we don't treat ourselves as a customer. We are hard on ourselves. And with you, I've noticed you are just a ball of energy. You treat yourself well, and that in itself, it manifests onto others. So thank you for doing that. It's really rubbing off on me. Yeah,
that's really, I feel this is my mission, to shine the light when there's in dark places. So there we go. It worked. Yes, it did. Certainly. Well, thank you once again, and we look forward to chatting with you. I'll definitely invite you on in the near future. Thank you. Bye, everybody.